The taste of copper filled my mouth as I stared at my twin sister through the peephole. Sarah stood on my doorstep at 11:47 p.m., her usually perfect posture crumpled like discarded paper. When I opened the door, the hallway light revealed what the shadows had hidden: a split lip still bleeding, purple bruises mapping the left side of her face, and her hands shaking so violently she could barely hold her purse. My name is Rebecca. I'm 34 and a forensic accountant. This is the story of how I became my sister to destroy the man who tried to destroy her. For 23 years, people had called us mirror images. Same green eyes, same auburn hair, same tiny scar above our right eyebrow from when we fell off our bikes as kids. But where Sarah had chosen softness, art therapy, gentle words, seeing the best in everyone, I had chosen precision. Numbers don't lie. Evidence doesn't forgive. And that night, looking at my sister's battered face, I knew exactly what kind of evidence I was seeing. "He said it was my fault," she whispered, touching her swollen jaw, "that I made him angry by wearing the blue dress to dinner, the one he bought me for our anniversary." Marcus Torres, the successful corporate lawyer who'd swept my sister off her feet 2 years ago with flowers and poetry and promises to protect her forever. The man who'd stood at their wedding saying he'd won the lottery marrying the gentler twin. We'd all laughed, even me. I wasn't laughing now. Sarah collapsed into my arms, and I felt how thin she'd become, how carefully she moved to avoid putting pressure on her ribs. "I can't go home," she breathed against my shoulder. "But I can't leave either. He controls everything, my credit cards, my car, even my phone. He checks my location constantly." That's when the idea crystallized, sharp and perfect as diamond. "What if you didn't have to leave?" I asked. "What if I went instead?" Her eyes widened in horror. "Becca, no. You don't understand what he's like when he's angry. He'll hurt you." I brushed a strand of hair from her damaged face. "He'll have to recognize me first." Over the next 3 days, I began studying my sister's life with the same methodical approach I used for financial fraud cases. Sarah told me Marcus left for work at 7:15 a.m. sharp, returned home by 6:30 p.m. unless he texted otherwise. Patterns she'd memorized to avoid his anger. He expected dinner ready when he walked through the door, expected Sarah to ask about his day, but never volunteer information about hers. She wasn't allowed to have friends over, wasn't permitted to work, couldn't even grocery shop without sending him photos of the receipt. But Marcus had made one crucial mistake. He never bothered to truly see the woman he was controlling. He saw an object, a possession, a thing that should respond predictably to his commands. As Sarah shared her survival strategies with me, I realized he'd never noticed that when Sarah was nervous, she twisted her wedding ring counterclockwise exactly 3 times. He didn't know she hummed the melody from Claire de Lune when she cooked. He'd never realized she kept a small bruise-cover makeup compact hidden inside an old tampon box, the one place he'd never think to search. I memorized it all, every gesture, every habit, every survival mechanism she'd developed. And while I studied Sarah, I also studied him. Marcus Torres, senior partner at Hartwell and Associates, graduated summa cum laude from Georgetown Law. On paper, he was impressive, but numbers tell different stories than diplomas. His expense reports showed regular payments to the same hotel every Thursday afternoon, always room 847, always billed to client consultations that didn't exist. His credit card statements revealed purchases at jewelry stores, followed by returns 2 days later, a pattern suggesting he was buying gifts for someone, then returning them when he got nervous about the paper trail. Most interesting of all, Marcus had been skimming money from his firm's client trust accounts using a sophisticated system of temporary transfers that only someone with my background would spot. He'd steal money for a few days, invest it in high-yield short-term options, then return the principal before anyone noticed. The profits went to a private account in Sarah's name, one she didn't know existed. He wasn't just an abuser, he was a thief, and he was using my sister's identity to do it. On Friday evening, Sarah hugged me goodbye with tears in her eyes. "Promise me you'll be careful." "Promise me you'll stay safe," I replied, adjusting her favorite blue dress, the one he'd forbidden her to wear. "I'm going to end this." After saying goodbye, I drove to the house Sarah and Marcus shared, using the key she'd given me. I arrived at 6:25 p.m., exactly when Sarah always had dinner finishing up. Marcus walked through the door right on schedule, loosening his tie with the satisfied expression of a man who expected his world to revolve around his convenience. "Smells good," he said without looking at me. "How was your day?" "Fine," I replied, using Sarah's soft voice, her deferential tone. "I missed you." He barely glanced up from his phone. Perfect. For 3 days, I played the role flawlessly. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his unfunny stories, and bit my tongue when he criticized everything from how I folded his shirts to how I loaded the dishwasher. But while he saw obedient Sarah, I was documenting everything. Every threat, every demand, every casual cruelty. The recording device hidden in my bra captured him saying, "Maybe if you weren't so stupid, you'd understand why I have to correct you." It recorded him grabbing my wrist hard enough to leave fingerprints, threatening to teach me a lesson if I embarrassed him again. But I wanted more than just evidence of abuse. I wanted justice for what he'd stolen, from Sarah, from his clients, from everyone who'd trusted him. On Thursday evening, while Marcus was at his weekly client meeting, aka his affair with his paralegal, I went to his home office and accessed his computer. His password was pathetically simple: Sarah's birthday followed by the year they'd met. Within an hour, I had downloaded everything: bank records, client files, emails with his mistress discussing how the wife will never find out, and most damaging of all, the detailed spreadsheet where he tracked his embezzlement scheme. He'd stolen over $300,000 from client accounts over the past 18 months. When Marcus came home that night, smelling like cheap perfume, I returned to the kitchen and waited. I was ready with divorce papers and a printed copy of his financial crimes, but I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I waited until he'd poured his usual nightcap, 3 fingers of whiskey, no ice. "Marcus," I said quietly, "we need to talk." He looked up, annoyed. "About what?" I slid the papers across the kitchen counter. His face changed as he read the first page, then went completely white as he saw the bank records. "Where did you get this?" His voice was barely a whisper. "The question isn't where," I said, standing slowly. "The question is, what happens next?" That's when he really looked at me. His eyes narrowed, scanning my face like he was solving a puzzle. I watched the exact moment comprehension dawned, when he noticed I wasn't wearing my wedding ring, when he saw that my posture was straighter, my gaze steadier than Sarah's had ever been. "You're not her," he breathed. "No," I said, pulling out my phone and showing him the recording app that had been running for 20 minutes. "I'm not." His face cycled through confusion, rage, and finally, fear. "Where is she?" "Somewhere you'll never find her." I gestured to the papers. "You have 2 choices, Marcus. Sign the divorce papers and turn yourself into the state bar tomorrow, or I release everything to your partners, your clients, and the police simultaneously." He lunged toward me, but I was ready. "Touch me, and I push one button," I said, holding up my phone. "Every file gets emailed automatically. Your career ends tonight instead of tomorrow." Marcus stared at the papers for a full minute, then grabbed a pen and signed his name with shaking hands. "This isn't over," he whispered. "Yes," I said, watching him sign the final page. "It is." The next morning, Marcus Torres was arrested at his law firm in front of his colleagues and clients. The charges were domestic violence, embezzlement, wire fraud, and identity theft. The evidence was overwhelming because I'd made sure of it. 3 months later, I sat in the courthouse gallery as Marcus was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. His law license was revoked, his assets were frozen to pay restitution to his clients, and his reputation was destroyed. The judge also granted Sarah's divorce petition, making their separation final and permanent. But the moment that mattered most happened right before the bailiff led him away. Marcus turned and looked directly at me in the gallery. For just a second, his mask slipped, and I saw the confused, powerless man underneath, the one who'd finally met someone he couldn't control, couldn't manipulate, couldn't break. "You thought you could break her," I mouthed silently. He stared back, understanding exactly who had orchestrated his downfall. "But you never even knew her," I whispered. Sarah started painting again last month. Real paintings this time, not the tiny hidden sketches she'd made in secret. Her divorce is final. Her name is cleared of all Marcus's financial crimes, and she's slowly rebuilding the life he tried to steal from her. Her latest piece shows two women standing back to back, their faces identical, but their expressions completely different. One looks toward the past with forgiveness. The other looks toward the future with determination. She titled it Mirror Image. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.